Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship. I'm here with PingPong, who is going to share his story with us a bit. How you doing, man?
Hello. What's happening, Colin?
Not much. You know, when I think of you, this is what I think of. I can't remember what it was. Maybe like a couple of years ago or a year ago at a boot camp. It was like some of the boot camp people all had birthdays that collided, and I was like, oh, let's have some cake and hang out, and invited you because you were in town, and you show up with two like cases of beer. And
come empty-handed.
And you're like, hey, how's it going? Like, where's the party? That's what I think of when I think of PingPong, and it brings a smile to my face. So thanks for sharing your story a bit.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So first, I've got some questions for you, but I posted on the forum, I don't know if you saw that I was going to be interviewing BJA054 and yourself, and some people chimed in with some questions, and so we got to start with the hard-hitting stuff. And Endurance wants to know, does PingPong play ping pong?
You know, the funny thing is, I actually play zero ping pong. The name actually comes from like outside of BJA. I have friends that call me Ping Pong as well too. It actually was a nickname that I picked up in college because I actually used to shave my head all the time. I have a really, really round head. So when I shave my head, I just have like this ping pong ball looking head.
Okay.
And that's where ping pong came. And then I also DJ'd while I was in college and after. So it became this silly DJ name that I used where
DJ Ping Pong?
Yeah, it became like this DJ Ping Pong thing. Like my goal was to have this really silly name and people would not know who I was and like, who's this guy? His name is Ping Pong. And then I would come and just wreck the club and be like insanely good. So that was the idea. And it worked for the most part. And it just stuck for a really long time.
Awesome. Well, that's it, folks. If you have any other questions for Ping Pong, you can ask them. Just kidding. So now I need to have you send me some of your DJ stuff.
I have some like old mixes that I have like, in my computer somewhere.
Awesome. So, all right, getting into some more Advantage Play stuff. How did you get into Advantage Play?
So, I think like my story starts before card counting, AP stuff. Before casino stuff, I never gambled, and I actually, right around when I was like 2021, I actually got into a little bit of like a business venture with my fiance, my girlfriend at the time. She's my fiance now, but my girlfriend at the time, her cousin was an affiliate marketer, and what that is you're someone who drives traffic to like websites and stuff, and you would make money on sales. It's kind of like a commission thing based off of you driving people to like a certain website or getting them to sign up for certain things. And this was a guy, like I have to tell his story because it's so interesting. Because he mentored me to get me to become an out-of-the-box thinker, and the way he thought about stuff was he was a really, really good programmer. Never really had like a college degree. Did a little bit of community college here and there. And one thing that he told me about how he got started was that a long, long time ago there was a website called, it's probably still around, it's called Adult Friend Finder. And what this website would pay was for you to, they would pay you $1 per person that you would send to that website.
Wow.
And so what he did was he was like, I'm just going to make this fake, account on Craigslist and pretend I'm a chick, and then I'm going to get people to go to this website. So what he did was that he created an account. He used the vacation mode on Gmail, which would auto respond.
Yes.
And when people would message that email, he would say, "Hey, like it's better if we chat on this website. Sign up for an account. It's free." So,
oh man!
Now that's the basis of it.
Yes.
Here's where the programming side goes. He actually programmed this bot that put that actual ad up on every city in the country.
Wow! And
so within 3 days, he was like, "I made $25,000."
Wow!
And that's when he quit his job and he just did this full time. In terms of affiliate marketing, and
yes.
He would start just doing these projects of where he would try to create this income from just getting people to sign up for stuff.
How long before that thing got shut down?
Well, the thing was, this was a long time ago before people were really doing it this way.
Yeah.
So this was like some old school type stuff.
Yeah.
And of course you can't really do that now. They're going to shut you down real quick. You're going to get flagged and stuff. But he was doing that, and the crazy thing was, at one point like he let it run because he didn't take the ads down. It actually went from like 25K up to like $8 million.
No way.
But he never got paid out because what had happened was that he took the actual referral link off of a banner ad and he was creating these like little funnels with them.
Yeah.
But that was against the terms of service because you had to use the banner ad itself. So they sort of screwed him out of all this money.
Wow.
He made a lot of money doing other stuff, but like that specific thing, it kind of taught him that he was meant to do this. But then, he sort of like he sort of like because he breached the terms of service, he got paid out on it. But
it's amazing that it got to 8 million before he
before it got flagged or
realized
anything, and so it was crazy. And then so I got into doing affiliate marketing and I did a lot of really clever stuff. And back then I was pulling in like $5,000-6,000 a month on the side of my job. I would be at work on my phone checking, I wonder how much I made today, and I can see it in real time how many signups I did, just based off all these ads and stuff that I put out, and that was good for a while until it slowly ended because the networks that I use got a little bit more expensive for the advertising, so it didn't really work out and it got really competitive. But that's kind of how I got started with just being really creative with thinking. Mm-hmm. And then with the whole AP thing, I actually, I played blackjack once on a table in Atlantic City when I had a trip out there. I learned like basic strategy because I used to play this game called My Vegas Slots, which is an app from MGM. And there's actually like a blackjack game, and I actually would play that game to get points with like a basic strategy chart. I would just follow it, and that's how I learned how to play basic strategy at that time, from just trying to crank out points on this game where I would try to get free rooms. Okay. And then so I played once at a table, and then the next time that I flash forward, I think like a year from then, and this is probably like my late 20s at this point. So I had did this I branch off into like all these different type of like side hustles and things like that, and I did this project where I used to sell music festival tickets because I was very good at forecasting sales. That was just something I was really good at doing. And there was this rave that was in town, and I bought $40,000 worth of tickets to resell. Because I calculated, before I realized how to actually, calculate EV and stuff, I had calculated that as a best case scenario, I would probably make around $40,000 to $45,000 in a week. As a worst case scenario, I might lose $2,000 to $3,000. Sure. Because the way I looked at it was, if something happens and it doesn't sell out, I would be able to just get rid of these tickets, on StubHub or something like that. And which I did end up doing because this was the one, aside from all the other ones I made a ton of money on, this was the one that happened to not sell out. Okay. And so I didn't end up making money. I lost about like $1,500, but I forecasted that worst case scenario was $2,000. So I had $500 left, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the casino. That this is pretty much the only other time that I've gambled before finding blackjack apprenticeship. I went and I lost $500 playing $25 blackjack. And after I lost, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to lose like this way again. I just felt like there has to be a way to beat this because there's stories. You hear about the MIT team and there's movies and stuff. So then I started researching online, just trying to find resources I could about how to count cards because that's the only AP thing I could really know about at that time. So I found Blackjack Apprenticeship and I went through the website, I went through some of like the free stuff, and I was like, these videos look pretty legit. It's like $250, $300 to sign up at the time. And, worst case scenario, if it's a scam, I only lose $300. Yeah. So I went ahead and did it. And that was, about 2.5 years ago, I think. Okay. And that's pretty much how I ended up here.
Okay, and it wasn't a scam.
And it wasn't a scam yet.
It's a long play.
Colin has some secret get rich quick stuff he's still not telling.
Yeah, this is what they call that, the long
The long con.
The long con, yeah. All right, so I remember you from the boot camp you came to, which was just about 2 years ago. Yeah. And you and
me, JC Rocks,
JC Rocks,
and Sassy Red at that boot
but it was you and JC Rocks 111 that passed the evaluations, which is really impressive. That takes a lot of work. How did you train?
So I signed up the November before that boot camp for Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I remember there was a boot camp in March, but I felt like I wasn't ready yet, and I wanted to make sure that I was as prepared as possible. For me, boot camp, I wanted it to be more of an evaluation, kind of like an like you're ready to go, to utilize what you've learned to go out and make money. Because the worst thing that can happen is someone who's overconfident and thinking they have a winning game and just going out there, pulling that bankroll out. And
that was BJA054. he was playing before he was ready, and
sometimes you might be okay if you're on the right side of variance.
No, it didn't work out great, and then he came to a boot camp and got things. He passed his evaluation, and anyway.
Yeah, so I mean that was what happened with me. Like I put in a lot of time. Like I probably put in more time than the normal person in terms of how long it took for me to learn everything. I think it really took me a good maybe 300-400 hours before it really clicked. And it wasn't that it was hard. I didn't get to where I was fully comfortable to where I was like, you know what, I got this down. And, and then at one point I feel like, we're good. And I did some play before boot camp. I think I did maybe like 30, 35 hours or something like that before boot camp. But I think I wanted to be as ready as possible. So, I can just have you tell me, hey, you're good to go. You don't have to come back to the second one. To do this all over again.
Yeah. People use it different ways. Some people, it really expedites their training by, they need the boot camp is like, okay, this is really what you should be doing. Other people use it at the end of their training like you did. And
I think if I could do it over again, I probably should have gone to the March one.
Oh, interesting.
Because I feel like I might have gotten more fixes in the holes that I would have needed. And then I probably could have just prepared on that. I think it became more of a just a hard, just kind of like a forced learning process for me.
Maybe it wouldn't have been 300 or 400 hours.
Possibly, yeah.
So what was your starting bankroll?
So I started off...
Oh, by the way, both George 21 and Road Grader wanted to know the answer to this.
Oh, sure. Okay. Shout out to you guys for all these questions. So I started off with 30K, and it actually was. I started my card counting career. It was pretty good. I think I made like a couple thousand, at the beginning, and I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
I was like, I should have did this a long time ago. And then I proceeded to lose a lot of it. And I think by the time the losing ended, I was at like 15,000. I lost like half of that bankroll. Like I talked to SD1 a lot, and I feel like our starts were pretty common. Where we lost like half that initial bankroll.
Do you think you're over betting?
So at the beginning, I think I was around like 1.5%, 2%.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing a lot of double deck games, but I was betting a lot more at the lower accounts. So I did swing harder with some variance at the beginning.
I see what you're saying.
And so I think just a string of bad variance pretty quickly crippled a pretty big portion of that bankroll.
And you didn't scale back when you were down?
I scaled back a little bit, but it probably not enough. I probably should have scaled back more. And because I didn't, I was left with like 15K. I had to grind out at much smaller stakes. I think at the time I was doing 2x200, and then when I went back down to 15K, just to be safe, I want to be extra safe. So then I was playing double deck games, and I was going up to like 2x100, which it was still pretty decent EV, but it was a lot. Wish I could have bet more and grinded that back up. And the crazy thing is, I went back on a tear where I started winning, and as I started winning, I scaled back up, and then I went from like 10K, from 15K, I went all the way up to I think like 50 something. So I made all of it back. And then I like made another like 30 something.
Yeah.
So it was in a short time frame. There was a lot of swings.
Yeah. And where did things go from there?
So pretty much I became a pseudo. I wasn't really a professional. I did everything part time. I was still working a job for the entire time that I was counting cards. And so after about like a year, I think it's actually about a year of counting. I think in total I did around 300 some odd hours of counting. Up until that point, I've always had different ideas of different plays I wanted to do. I had started coming up with different things. You probably remember me like messaging you like, you know, like what about some of these things?
Yeah. Well, hold on, step back a little bit. So in that year, 350 hours, that you built it up to around 60K?
No, I actually, once it got up to around like 50 something K, so at the beginning I lost 15, and then I had won like, it was close to 50 or 55.
Okay, so you're up at 80, 85.
And then I did drop back down another like 15 or 20. So I like by the end of that stint, I was up around like 20K or so.
Oh, okay.
So I was definitely still up like from what I started with.
Yeah.
And so pretty much from there, like you know, I had all these ideas of different plays I wanted to implement. I think even when I went to boot camp, I had ideas of things I wanted to do. Like I think one of the first ideas I came up to you was, hey, I was playing this $5 game, and I noticed that some of these cards, you know, may have, you know, different bends on them, because when you hold the actual cards out, like some of them are darker than others. And because there was a play that I had read about, it was like a cut card play that was in Bill Zender's book, Advanced Advantage Play for the Casino Executive. And I was like, oh, is this the same scenario? Like, would I be able to, at the very least, cut, you know, some of the low cards all the way to the top, so then I can like get those out of the way, and then you know, make the count higher and whatnot. And I realized that wasn't true at that casino. It was just the way the cards were. But I think that was like one of the initial ideas that I had. And then and I always thought of, you know, different things, and even while I was in my card counting year, you know, I also got into doing some banking in some California card rooms as well too. You know, the standard person that banks these games, you know, there's a pretty decent profit in terms of like how strong the EV is, but I figured a way to bank at 3 times what a normal person would make at some of these games. And there are reasons why I don't do any banking anymore, and it's more so because you sort of have to play against other people, and a lot of times people don't want to put their money up against you, and they're like, oh, I'd rather lose it to the house than lose it to you. I've had someone tell me that. So it just became a thing where it was hard to actually get the action to actually bank.
Oh, that's interesting.
But from there, you know, like within that year of all my just different crazy ideas that I had, I did meet some pretty high level APs at the last at the party that you threw last year. And what these guys told me, because there was one specific play that I had devised, and it was a play that me and Hit a 7 went on, and this was a play where we both got 8/6 for playing a 6-5 CSM game.
So you got kicked out.
We got backed off first. We got backed off first, and they said like, you know, you can't play this way. You know, you're like, we're gonna have to ask you to leave and not come back for 24 hours. So we're like, okay, that's cool.
Took a day off.
And so we went to cash out, because this was a place where like they already had us on camera, so it wasn't like it wasn't different for us to walk out with the chips. So while we were cashing out, the same guy comes up to us and he goes, "We reviewed the tapes. You guys are not allowed back."
Oh wow! And for playing a 6-5 CSM game.
6-5 CSM game. Yes,
that's awesome. So if you guys can't tell already, PingPong's really bright, and constantly think. It's like that perfect match of you trust the math, you follow the math, but you're always asking questions of like, what is what is this? What is the possibility here?
I like more. Like I always look for more out there. And to go back to the original question, like I pretty much for the first year of card counting, from there I met some guys that were like, some high level APs that were like, if you are really serious about getting into some of this other stuff, you may want to not count cards. Not because it's not profitable. It's absolutely profitable. I have a lot of really good card counter friends who crush casinos. But for me particularly, and my personality, because I want to do some of these more advanced plays, it wouldn't be good for me to draw that type of heat. And get into databases and things like that. And I'll give you a great example. For me, after this conversation I had, I did find a pretty nice hole carding game at a place like about 2 hours from my house. And this was when I was still practicing how to hole card. And this was a place that I had played blackjack. I was counting blackjack like 4 or 5 months ago at that particular location. And they came out because someone remembered me and backed me off of this carnival game that I was betting $5 a hand on. Told me that you couldn't play table games here.
Too rich for their blood.
and it was great, and with that incident, I was like, they're right,
Yeah.
And so what I did, and I forced myself to go cold turkey, not count cards. And
did you have withdrawals?
I mean, I sort of did. Like, I would go to a casino and I'd be like, I can generate some EV at the table right now. But I wouldn't let myself.
Yeah.
What I would force myself to do was I would just go to a random casino that I would normally go to. And I would set a time for myself, like an hour to 2 hours. And I would say, you have 2 hours here. Figure out a way to make some money. Figure out a way to make some EV. Not make some money, because I'm not just going to go, put 100 on black. I'm going to go figure out ways to get some sort of edge, whether it be something small. I just need some sort of an edge somewhere. Mm-hmm. And over a period of the next, I want to say maybe 4 to 6 months, I really didn't make much money. I mean, I was doing just tons and tons of scouting. I did find some pretty good hole card games, but unfortunately in the region that I live in, a lot of the dealers they rotate after 30 minutes. So, I would get some good plays here and there, but, it'd be gone just like that.
Yeah.
and then I'd have to, just look for it all over again.
Yeah.
But because of all of these things and all these factors, it kind of forced me into it forced me into a almost like a forced training of myself to figure out where the edge is on certain things. And I learned how to analyze a whole lot of things in the casino just because I was curious. And I was I wonder how, I can analyze this video poker table or what's the edge on this game if, the dealer's exposing one card or whatnot. And I did that for a good 6 months. And then I sort of found myself into some more advanced plays through a lot of networking, and that's very, very important to network with people because I think with me, like networking with different people, some things which started off as something small evolved into some pretty large scale plays. And
well, to be honest, that applies whether you're a card counter or
with anything. With anything.
And that's been kind of a drum I've been beating a lot more the last year or so, maybe the last couple of years, because as Blackjack Apprenticeship has really matured and developed as a community, I'm seeing the people that are having the most success are well networked.
Yeah.
And there are multiple reasons. One is just the support system, but the other is, you could ask someone that's another AP, like, hey, I heard that you'd been to this state, city, casino, whatever, like, what could you let me know? And that could be the difference between a bad trip and a really successful trip.
That's very, very true. Like, when I was still very much actively card counting, like I, knew all the conditions of my area, and, a lot of the pros that you guys know about now, JC Rocks, SD1, Sassy Red, and BJ21, these guys have all reached out to me, when they visit my region. And like I always I try to make a trip out to, go meet up with them, have dinner, give them a breakdown of all the, local conditions and things that I've heard and stuff like that. And it's very, very valuable to have something like that. And plus it sucks being on your own. Yeah. Up until the point I went to boot camp, like I really didn't know any people, APs in person. So it was all just this really lonely road, and all you really have is this, just this, I mean, it's good to have the message board at least, but you have no physical contact with anyone.
Yep. So, talked a bit about your card counting, you got into, other advantage play stuff. And, I think there's a common question people have of which route should they go? And Adam asked, what do you feel is the biggest upside and biggest downside to being a card counter?
So it's all really personality based. I've talked with this with multiple people, and there really is no best play or best tactic. It's really going to be what's best suited with your personality. And I'll give a really great example. SD1 crushes it at blackjack, crushes it. And what works for him, and I think we share a lot of similarities with as well as with JC Rocks as well too. We all came from a sales background, so we're very talkative. So when we're at the tables counting cards, you would never suspect us. We're hiding in plain sight because we're not going to be quiet, trying to think of the true count. I'm there telling you a story. I'm there telling you jokes.
Because you've trained so well that you can multitask.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't have to think twice about anything. I would know. I can take a quick glance. I would know exactly what the true count is. I would know exactly how much I need to bet. And with all the extra mental strength I have, I would be able to converse at the tables. I made really good friends with a lot of the pit personnel. I'm still at the peak of when I was playing.
Playing blackjack.
Playing blackjack. I was betting $50, spreading up to 2x500 on a double deck game, and I got a lot of hours.
That's amazing.
Like it wasn't even like I was getting heat. Like I was making such good friends with a lot of the pit personnel that there's a couple people that knew what I was doing, but they didn't care. I received no heat. Like I had one of the pit bosses that would come and shake my hand every time I came.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so it really is something where if it's something that you need to find what fits your personality. If you want to do one thing and just go aggressively crush the tables, card counting is perfect. Sassy Red is a great example of that.
And Joe.
And Joe, we all know Joe. We all know Joe's story, but just to emphasize on that, just the aggressive style of having a massive spread and just playing hard. It works. Yeah. Like that's, if anything, that's one of the best ways to play.
And Tommy Highland.
Yeah, Tommy Highland's been doing it for like 30 years, I think, like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And so, with card counting, like if you want something that's tried and true and works, absolutely it works, and you can make a ton of EV doing it.
Yeah.
On the flip side, like with some of the advanced plays, non-card counting plays, if you want to do something where it's going to be less heat, because maybe they have no idea what you're doing, that might be a little bit better for your personality. For me, like I loved card counting. I just get really, really bored of doing any one thing. I have a very, I'm pretty ecstatic about stuff. Like I change my mind pretty quick, and once I figure something out, like I'm moving on to something new. And I think what's fun for me about some of the more advanced plays is that it's not any one thing that I do. If you were to ask me like, oh, ping pong, what do you do in the casinos now? I really don't have an answer to that question. Like I have like off the top of my head, like 5-10 different things that I'm actively doing right now to generate EV. And there's like, I have so much on my plate that I have plays that are valuable plays that I've put aside because I don't have enough time to do them. And that keeps my brain moving, and it's dynamic enough where I don't get bored because I'm not doing the same thing over and over. And plus, like I like being able to do stuff right in front of the casinos because I think that's so funny.
So you've gone full time recently.
So I've gone full time recently, and it was kind of accidental. I lost my job in November.
Okay.
So I was kind of forced to become a full time AP, and up until that point,
What did you do to lose your job?
I sort of AP'd something at work, which I didn't get fired for, but someone got really, really upset and fired me for something else. That was like that no one else ever gets fired. Like I sort of got retaliated against because of something that I did that was not against policy.
Yeah.
And
interesting. They didn't like that you were doing so. It sounds just like your boss is like casino.
I mean, I've always been really rebellious in nature, like with everything that I do, and so I've always had an exit strategy to everything I do. I never thought about just having one source of income. I never relied on my job. I always told people at work, like, this is my side job.
Yeah.
And if any one of my income streams were to fail, instead of losing income, I would just divest more time into something else, and then I would just make up for it, doing other things. And so I chose to focus more time in being into being an AP, and it's been fantastic for me so far. I probably should have got fired years ago.
That's funny. There was actually someone that we fired is a strong word, but we let him go from the church team because it was like he had so many great ideas. It felt like he was just kind of being held back by the church team, and we let him go. And he's like done really cool stuff since
sometimes
then.
That's how it is. I was a terrible student. I was a horrible student. I couldn't focus in school, and I like to do creative things outside of academics.
You got into college, so
I did some college. I never really finished college, but I'm that guy.
Yeah, I know you're not too far into your full-time career, but someone wanted to know if you had any advice for others thinking about going full-time.
So if you're thinking about going full-time, first thing I would really think of is your lifestyle and risk of ruin, because the biggest strength you have, and which could also be a big weakness, is bankroll management. If you do not know how to manage your bankroll, you can go bust very, very quickly. And if you have zero to be able to make any bets with, now you're looking at all the opportunity costs of time that you could have been spending at the tables or out, generating EV. But if you are wise in how you actually manage your money, then you can actually make it work. Now, there's no right answer. It really depends on where you live. If you live in a part of the world or the part of the country or world that your lifestyle costs more, your living expenses cost more, it's going to require a much, much bigger bankroll than it is for someone who, may be younger and is willing to live out of their car. I would, at the very least, advise having enough income to survive for maybe like half a year without.
You mean like savings, or
like in terms of savings,
other income streams?
I would, because if your goal is to be a card counter, I think one of the best things to be able to do in terms of growing the bankroll is to don't go too hard too soon. If you have a job that you can work at and you can actually play regularly on the side with enough hours, you can where you can grow that bankroll without touching it. The actual your EV is going to grow exponentially. Someone who has a 20,000 bankroll and a 40,000 bankroll, the EV on there is more than double. It's not just like, I have 20, now I have 40, I'm going to make twice as much. It's the actual amount that you make scales based on how much money you have, up until you get to sort of like a peak amount of where the heat kind of starts to come down on you and stuff. But if you can get to where you can build that bankroll up to a level that is going to be able to generate enough EV where it's going to be able to cover your travel expenses and stuff. That would really be ideal, because if you have like 10,000, it's going to be really hard to go out and red/green chip your way across the country. Like it can happen, and if you're on the right side of variance, of course it's possible, but it's going to be tough, and it is going to be a grind. And it's really going to come down to, is it going to be more worth it for you to go as a full-timer early and make less EV and also have to deal with living expenses, or be able to grow it larger and then be able to make more money? Like, you have to figure out what's a better use of your time. What's going to be what's going to generate you more money over X amount of years. Yeah. Because if you look at a guy like SD1 or Hit a 7, these guys work. These guys work. They have full-time jobs, and they're part-time APs that are out there crushing it. And you don't necessarily have to be a quote-unquote full-time AP to go out and crush the tables.
Yeah, I generally recommend against going full-time. Like, only do it if it's really your by far best option. If you can have income and generate EV on the side, it's going to be a lot. You're going to grow your entire, whatever wealth or nest egg.
It's also going to suck a lot less. The early stages are really rough.
Yeah. So, Jack wanted to know, when did you decide to start spending? When do you decide to start spending money on
That's actually a really good question. So I think that's going to really depend, because for me right now, with the being that I do non-counting plays and I have sort of more income streams available where I'm generating a pretty significant amount of EV, I am able to freely spend as I sort of want to, within reason. I've always been pretty frugal, so at the end of the day, if I am going to buy something, I'm still going to be very, very smart about it. You guys probably saw my credit card post that was on that I made not too long ago. But for me, like, I try to maximize everything that I do. So if I am going to go out and spend, I'm going to be able to get a lot of that money back. So if you are a card counter, or actually any AP in general, you're going to want to. If there's something you want to buy, you're going to have to look at opportunity cost. That goes back to opportunity cost, where if I take this money out, is this going to affect my bankroll? Like, if you have $100,000 bankroll and you're about to spend, like $1,000, that's going to be much less significant than it is if you have a $10,000 bankroll and you're about to spend $1,000. It's going to make a much larger difference on your actual future EV. Let's say if you're trying to do this full time, and you have like 40, 50K or something like that, are you able to spend money on something and potentially take a bad session or two? Because that can be something that can be pretty rough as well too. If it's something where you're doing it more of a like a side thing, you're working and you have your blackjack, your card counting as kind of like a source of investment, then you're much safer if you have money and you're not really needing to survive on that. So there's not really like a right answer. For me, it really comes down to how much is this going to change my risk of ruin. If it's going to impact my risk significantly, I'm probably not going to make that large purchase. But if I can still move on comfortably after the purchase, then then it's fine.
I really encourage people to kind of think through or map out what are your goals. Like, what are your life goals? Because we can get all caught up in EV and risk and all that stuff, and miss the forest for the trees. And if hey, this is really what I'm pursuing in life, then that could be the decision to not make a purchase, because hey, that purchase is actually going to keep me from whatever it is. Or sometimes it's the opposite, where it's like,
you never purchase anything.
And it's like, hey, no, actually this purchase is, it might be painful to spend this, amount of money, but if it's aligned with your goals, then it's a great use of money.
Set a goal for yourself. If your quest is that you're going to, make 20,000 before you spend anything, and you really want like a nice watch or something, like set a goal so where you're gonna at the very least put in these amount of hours, or make this much in terms of the add it to the bankroll before you're going to make a spending, and then you can adjust accordingly. Maybe you'll quote unquote close out your bankroll at that point. Take a little bit out, and then keep grinding from there and readjust your bet spread.
So at this point, how much are you playing rated?
It depends on the actual play itself. If the play depends on the actual the comps that I'm receiving, then I will play rated. If it's something where I'm trying to attain something, whether that be like rooms or they're giving away cool stuff, or maybe there's like a sweepstakes or something, then of course I'll play rated if that's the goal. But if I'm doing something where it potentially is going to draw heat, and it's not really going to benefit me much going rated, then I won't. And I think one big misconception people have is that by playing rated, you won't draw heat for some reason. You're going to go from $5 to like $1,000, and no one's going to look at you because you're playing rated. And there's so many factors in how you're going to get heat. And the biggest reason why you're going to get heat is that you're counting cards. So whether you're rated or not, that's gonna
or even just winning,
or just winning. I've met ploppies who've gotten backed off from blackjack before. And so there's no real right answer. Like, it depends on, is that worth you potentially getting database, because it's not the end of the world to get database, but if you can time it to where it happens a little bit later in your career, it'll make things a little bit more comfortable.
I think all card counters or advantage players would say it's nice if you can avoid getting database.
Like no one wants to get database.
Yes, but all of us who have been, it hasn't stopped us. From
it's not the end of the world. You can still make tons of money. And again, like, if one thing that I told, there's a pro recently that had visited me, and they were asking, like, should I play rated here? Because this was a specific place where we had knowledge that if you played rated before, that you actually were getting a bit more time. And so, but conditions sort of have changed, so we don't have that same type of environment there anymore. And usually what I tell people is, if you don't play rated, at the very least, let's say if you are databased, it's going to take them a little bit longer to find you because they don't have your name. They're going to have to, maybe look up, like your this ethnicity, your this color hair, whatever it may be. And then they can find who you are and then back you off. Whereas if you play rated and you're already database somewhere and you're at a place, just look, it takes like 5-10 minutes. They just type in your name the moment they suspect you, and now what you could have been an extra 15 minutes of EV you could have gotten. It closes down. So there's no right answer. It depends.
So a couple more questions to wrap it up. Any favorite stories so far from your career, or favorite plays?
Favorites. Man. Like, the thing is, like, I've had some pretty big scores, but a lot of, like, the ones that I do, like, it's not anything where it's like actually no. I did have a place where it was a side bet, and the way you actually play this game is that you can actually you can actually bet on other people's spots. And I was actually it's a pretty decent edge on this game, but pretty much I had calculated that it was around, at the time, it was the last hand of the shoe. I had calculated my advantage on there I think it was like 25% or something. It was a really big edge.
Wow.
And the max bet on your spot was $50. And there was one other lady that was playing there at the table. So I bet on my spot, and then I also bet on the spot that was next to me, and then I tried to put more spots on the other side of her, And then so they're like, you can't play that way. If she's there, you can't play on the other side of her. So I told the lady, I was like, hey, would you mind just playing over here? I want to bet these spots. So she's like, oh, that's fine. It's like, it's like this older lady. And then so then she moves over, and then I bet these spots. And then they were like, if she's playing, you're limited to only betting 2 spots. Or they did some weird rule like that.
Sure.
So I told the lady, I was like, ma'am, I was like, I see you're betting $5. I will give you $5 if you do not play this hand, because it was worth it for me.
Yeah.
It was a 25% edge, and I was about to put $300 on the table.
Yeah.
And so she actually, so she's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. So she won her bet without having to play. And then so she leaves the table. I'm betting all the spots. And so the cards come out, and I end up not winning. It, like the side bet does not hit.
Yeah.
It was great EV on that hand, but of course with variance it did not hit. But if the actual card that came up first for the dealer would have been 1 over, if it would have actually had been cut 1 card over, that would have actually have been like a $15,000 payout. And by this time, as all these cards are coming out, it was a really, really small casino. I had the entire casino around my table watching this go down. Man. And like the dealers were kind of like hoping it was going to hit because they're going to get a tip and stuff, because with these type of plays you would generally tip for heat and whatnot, but it was going to be the last hand, and I was about to leave, so I was like, I don't care. I'm putting on as much money as I could possibly can.
A card away from $15,000.
It was a card away from $15,000.
But that was some great EV either way.
That was great EV. And I mean, like on the flip side, I mean, I've had crazy stories of like the most insane variance happening to me as well too. In the last 5 months, I have hit 8 royal flushes
on video poker.
On video poker.
How often are you supposed to hit one?
I think it depends on how much you play, but it's probably gonna, like, people can go like half a year to like a year and hit one. I think there was a story on Gambling with an Edge where Anthony Curtis never hit one for like 10 or 15 years or some long stretch where all the video poker he's ever played. So
you were due because of his.
I took up all of Anthony Curtis's royal flushes.
So nobody should play for a while because you're.
Like I've taken all the luck out of video poker. You guys should really stay away from video poker for a while.
So if you can't read the sarcasm, we're completely joking. And you shared a couple other good stories. I mean, going 50 to 2x500 on double deck for a long time. That's a great story. That the 6 to 5 CSM play that you and Hit A7 were doing.
There are so many things out there, and if there's one thing you can take away is to don't limit yourself to one thing. 100%. If you're in this for counting cards, like I love calling and I love blackjack apprenticeship, and that's why I stick around and I'm helping everyone. So as much as I can, I 100% believe in card counting because it works. Like we got guys like SD1, JC Rocks, Hit a 7, which is also they're the Thug Life Snapchat crew. Big shout out. These guys are out. These guys are out crushing the tables. Just spreading, just being aggressive and playing and being smart about what they're doing. Like some guys are like, oh, I'm betting like 50 to $5 to $50, and they're watching me, and you're not going to be able to make money if you're afraid. You have to go out and get the money out there, and realistically, go for that money, but don't limit yourself by only looking at the blackjack table. If you're going to be in the casino anyways, might as well take a look around and see if there's anything else you can find, because you're not really limited to one play. And if you can find one other thing, that that's extra EV for you.
Awesome. So the last question is, you have any thoughts of what you want to do after or outside of Advantage Play down the road? So
one thing that happens to a lot of counters is that they may get burnt out after a while, because it just everything that happens, and it's really it's just really monotonous, and it's a grind. Right now, I'm having the most fun I've had in my life. I think this fits my personality so well. But the funny thing is, I hate gambling. Like, I actually don't. I've only gambled twice before being an AP, and I actually don't enjoy gambling. Yeah. But I love destroying rules. Yeah, I love breaking things down, and I love figuring things out. And like, if I can do this for as long as I possibly can, it's great because I absolutely enjoy the freedom. I like the money, but the money's a close second. Like, I love the conquest of doing these things.
Yeah. That's awesome. I met someone recently, really liked the guy, and he came over for dinner, and we're talking, and he knew about the card counting stuff, and I could tell it just by his response that it was like he didn't really jive with it, or has some reservations or whatever. But then he's telling me about his job, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe he works for a large company." What he does is pretty cool, but he's like, "I can't believe I've always been so anti-corporate, anti-establishment," and he does, but he's like explaining why, and legitimately what he's saying, it makes sense what he's able to do for the company and how the company is run. But it's it's a mega company, like everybody's heard of it. Yeah. And it wasn't until after he left I was like, dude, there's nothing more anti-establishment, anti-corporate, nothing more punk rock than being an advanced player.
Sure.
Like, I was like, why didn't I think of this when we were talking about it? Because we were like sharing the same punk rock bands and all this stuff, and he's anti. And I'm like, he has these reservations. It was like, he just doesn't get it. Like, this is a very F the man. And
I'm pretty sure you've seen from like some of the memes I post, I'm pretty anti-establishment.
Yeah. It's like, it's fun. There's something really fun about, like, we're not breaking the rules, but we are using the rules to bring down the man.
Like, there's so many people where there's the reactions to when you tell someone that you're a professional gambler goes it ranges from 1, is it legal? 2, that's really, really cool. 3, my uncle used to do that. Yes. He lost a lot of money.
Or I've had people say like, "Oh yeah, well my grandpa, was a professional craps player or whatever." I'm like, "No, he wasn't." Unless
it's like I don't want to tell people like, "Oh, your dad's like a degenerate," But that's because I had a guy who was like, "Oh yeah, my dad used to do that, and he lost his Corvette." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like,
no, he didn't do what we do. Or he had terrible money management. Some combination of those. Yeah. The worst is the like, well, that's illegal, which a parent of one of our, my wife was meeting a parent of classmate of our kids. And then the guy's like, she's, "Oh, what does your husband do?" And she tells them, and the husband is like, "Well, that's illegal." And
Grace this family's just full of straight criminals.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's actually, it's not. And he's like, "I know, I was a dealer in Tahoe."
but isn't that so crazy? Like how conditioned some of the employees get.
Yeah.
Like they're like, "Oh, you can't do that."
Or that we're like trying to harm them. It's like you work for the evil empire.
Some dealers take it personally. When they find out, they're like they start half shoeing you.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. If people have questions, can they ask you through the forum?
Yeah, feel free to PM me. I am so sorry if I offend anyone on the forums. I am a very straightforward person, and when I type online, I really don't have a filter. Like, I sort of just give blunt answers. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me on the forums. Send me a private message if you have any questions or anything. I'll do my best to help you out. To the best of my ability. And if I can't help you, there's tons of other guys I can link you up with that can help you out.
Really cool for you to take the time to share this, as well as help through the forum. And it's awesome to be for me to be a part of this and to see all these people that are having success with this. One, it's just awesome seeing people have success with it.
Yeah.
But 2, seeing them give back is really, really cool. So thanks for doing that. And this is probably going to be a members only one. We're talking about some more advanced stuff.
Sure.
If it's public, you want to learn more, whatever, check out our membership and join the forum and become friends with PingPong through private message. And
bring some beers.
Bring some beers. You don't want to show up empty-handed at the party. Otherwise, if you're a member, put in the training. Maybe we'll meet you at boot camp someday and you can meet PingPong in person. Otherwise, we'll talk to you guys later.